Hi all, welcome back. Let's resume our IELTS reading practice. Now today, why don't we discuss yes, no, not given question type? Yes, isn't that interesting? Some of the students find it a bit challenging. Maybe like one aspect or one concern some of the students have is that okay, if a given statement is yes, they're easily able to identify it, but they are quite confused between no and not given. They are not able to clearly figure out which is no and which is not given. So let's do a simple practice test and find out how it can be done. Okay. Now, before getting into the actual test, I'll show you a small sample to give you a basic understanding on how or what we should look out for when yes, no, not given question type comes. See, what is basically said in this question type is that you'll have your reading passage with different paragraphs or sections as they are called. Now, based on the given passage, you'll have a set of yes, no, not given questions. Now, how the questions appear, you will be given statements as part of the question. If there are 4 questions, 4 statements will be given. Now, what you need to find out or how to answer this question is that take the first statement, understand the meaning of that statement in its entirety. Don't just focus on words and check whether the same words are there in the passage or not. You might see them, you might not see them. It's not about finding the same word or not. It's about understanding the complete or the entire meaning of the statement given in the question, and then you have to go back to the passage and see whether it agrees with the claim made by the writer in the passage. Okay, and there also when you look through the passage also, you have, when you find an area which talks about the statement given in the question, try to understand the entire meaning of the claim which the writer has made in the passage. There also again, don't focus on words and say that this word is here, this word is there in the statement, so it's an yes. No, that will not happen, or that should not happen. You have to understand in entirety what the claim of the writer is, and you have to understand in entirety what the statement is, given statement is. If they are exactly matching in terms of the idea they convey, then of course you can say it yes. Now, if the given statement, the idea or the meaning of the given statement does not completely match with what the writer has claimed in the passage, then we go for a no. Okay, maybe like the words that you say in the statement might be there, the idea, partially the idea might be there in the passage as well. Partially the idea that you see in the given statement, you might be able to see in the passage as well. So for that reason, you cannot say it as yes. Only if the entire meaning matches, then it should be a yes. If it is not completely agreeing or matching to what the writer says in the passage, then you have to mark it as no. Okay, and when does this not given come? Not given comes when the idea which the question is trying to say through the statement has nowhere a reference in the passage. If the given statement, if the idea in the given statement is not being referred to at all in the given passage, then it is not given. Again, it's not the word there. Might be a word might be there, but the idea or the meaning that is being trying to be conveyed, no reference regarding that aspect or regarding that idea is being mentioned in the passage, then we say it as not given. So that is how you have to clearly differentiate between yes, no, and not given. Yes means the given statement's idea completely matches with the writer's claim in the passage. No means like the given statement either completely contradicts the writer's claim or does not completely match with the idea which is given in the statement. The writer's claim does not entirely match with the statement's idea, or it contradicts. And not given means the idea which is trying to be conveyed through the statement is not clearly visible, or it's not clearly understandable from the passage. Then we say it as not given. That is how you need to understand. Now, I shall show on screen a very simple, not an IELTS academic level kind of passage or extract, a very simple extract, and let's try to understand the basic way in which you can differentiate between this yes, no, and not given. You can see on the screen. Now, I've a very simple section from a passage. And you have the statements here. These are the questions. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. These are the questions, are the given statements. Now what you need to identify is whether it is yes, no or not given by comparing it with what the reader has mentioned, what the writer has claimed in the passage. The first statement says that all electric car owners care about the environment. So think of the meaning. The statement is trying to say, statement, what do you mean by statement? It's a declaration, it's a declarative sentence. You're saying something for sure. Now, what is this first question number 1 or statement 1 trying to declare or state? All electric car owners care about the environment, which means that whoever who owns an electric car, that person is concerned about the environment or is conscious about the care about the environment. That is the meaning of this statement. Now we have to scan through the passage and try and understand whether the writer also has the same claim. Whether the writer also says that all of these people who own electric cars, they care or they are conscious about the environment. They will not do any harm to the, they don't prefer to do any kind of harm to the environment. Does such a meaning is being conveyed in the passage? That's what we need to find out. Let's start. Electric cars have become more common in cities over the past decade. Some drivers choose them to reduce their carbon footprint. Some drivers choose them to reduce their carbon footprint. Now what does that mean? This carbon footprint means nothing. It's an environmental issue which is caused by the carbon emission from the vehicle. So the writer claims that some drivers choose electric vehicles because they care about this carbon emission, they care about the environment, they don't prefer carbon emission. So that is why some drivers choose them. And what does the statement, the question say? All electric car owners care about it. So can we say it as yes? No, they convey different meanings. As per the writer, some of them do care, but as per the statement, all care. For that reason, this is no. Can I say it as not given? No, because information regarding to care for environment is given in the passage. So information regarding that is given. And it completely contradicts. It's opposing to what is being mentioned in the statement. Here in the statement it says all, but in the passage it says some. So definitely they are not matching. We know that it's not yes. Then whether it's no or not given, I cannot say it's not given because something related to environmental care is given regarding drivers who or people who own electric car is being mentioned in the passage. But what is the difference? In the passage, the writer says that some drivers, but the statement says that all. For that reason, we should be saying it as, stating it as no. Now the second question. Electric cars are mostly used in villages. But what did we read in the first sentence of this passage? Electric cars have become more common in cities. Right. So again, here it is contradicting. In the passage, the writer claims it has become more common in cities. But the statement says that it is mostly used. Mostly used means common. It's mostly used in villages. No. It's just the opposite. So again, no. No. Okay. For a yes, no, not given question, it's always recommended that you write it completely. Y-E-S, yes, N-O, no, not given, fully. Now, don't go for short forms. Now, electric cars are cheaper to maintain than petrol cars. Now, let's see something regarding maintenance charges given. So, some drivers use it to reduce carbon footprint. However, charging stations are still not available in many rural areas. In many rural areas, charging stations are still not available. Then the cost of maintaining, maintenance cost. The cost of maintaining an electric car is often lower than that of petrol vehicles, which means that electric cars have lower maintenance cost, which is same as this, cheaper. So the idea is same. So we say yes. Okay. Here it is said that the cost of maintaining an electric car is lower. But here it is said that electric cars are cheaper to maintain. Words used are different, but the meaning that both convey are exactly the same. Now moving on to the fourth question. Every city now has charging stations for electric vehicles. Every city has that. Now, what about that? Anything regarding charging station? Is it mentioned here? Yes, it's mentioned. However, charging stations are still not available in many rural areas. So in the passage, the writer says that in many rural areas still it is not there. In many rural areas, these charging stations are not there. Now, does that mean that like everywhere in the city or every city has charging station? Maybe it can be, yes. Maybe the writer is, without saying, the writer is trying to say, okay, in rural areas, like a lot of places, many of the rural areas, it does not have charging station. But in the cities, it might be there, it might not be there. But in cities, of course, it is there. But does every city have it or not? We are not sure. So now, definitely it's not yes, because nothing is being mentioned about the charging station in cities. So we cannot say it as yes. Now, whether it is no or not given, how do we say that? Can I say no? When will I say no? If in the passage, if the writer has claimed that not all cities have these charging stations. If it is very clearly explicitly mentioned in the passage that not all cities have charging stations, and the statement says that every city has charging station, completely we can deny what the statement is trying to declare. So in that case it can be no. But here we don't have enough evidence to support it or oppose it. So for that reason this would be not given, because we have no idea regarding the availability of charging station in cities. They have, of course, the writer has spoken about the charging station available in rural areas, but no hint as to regarding the charging station in cities. We don't have enough information either to support it or oppose it. So we say it as not given. Now the last one, electric cars are faster than petrol cars. No reference regarding the speed mentioned at all in the passage. So here you don't have a confusion. Very clearly we can say it as not given. Okay, I hope by now you have got an understanding on how to differentiate between yes, no and not given questions. Now let's get into the actual practice test. Here you have the reading passage with multiple sections A, B and so on. I've not included all of those. Now here we have a set of yes, no, not given questions. So whatever the question type is, the first step is read the instruction carefully. Do the following statements agree with the claims of the writer in reading passage 1? That's a given passage. In boxes 6 to 9 on your answer sheet, write yes. See, in the instruction they have given it as write yes, Y-E-S. So it is always better if you write it completely. Why take risk? Yes, if the statement agrees with the claims of the writer. By now we know what they mean by agrees with the claim of the writer. No, if the statement contradicts the claims of the writer. Okay, I hope by now we know what they mean by no. Contradict means we are not completely able to get an evidence from the passage opposing to what has been claimed in the given statement. Then not given, if it is impossible to say what the writer thinks about. We are not sure as to what the writer's thought is, because we don't have enough evidence in support of the writer's claim or opposing the writer's claim. If we don't have enough evidence, that is, it is impossible for us to judge that or figure that out, then we go for the option not given. Okay, this is what you need to understand. Now let's get into the first question. There is a sixth question. There is a wider range of achievement amongst English pupils studying maths than among their Japanese counterparts. Now, what do you mean by counterparts? Counterparts means people sharing the same position, people who hold the same position. So here counterparts means that English pupils studying maths and Japanese people who study maths, that they are counterparts. People who share or do the same things or hold the same position. That's what you mean by counterparts. So the statement is trying to declare that there is a wide range of achievement, wide range. Now what do you mean by, wider range? What do you mean by wider range? What do you mean by range? Range means like the extremes. There are low extreme and high extreme, the difference is really wide. Now, if you take a few numbers, 1 to 10, so the range is from 1 to 10. Now, when I say numbers from 10 to 50, the range is more because there are different numbers coming in between 10 and 100, and the gap between the numbers is really wide. That's what you mean by wider range. So, wider range of achievement means among English pupil means there would be students who score very low, but at the same time there would be students who score very high. That is what you mean by wider range. The range is wide means very low attaining students would be there, and students who attain very high scores in maths would also be there when it comes to English students. Than amongst their Japanese counterparts means in Japanese students marks in maths, that is not the case. That is what the statement is saying. The range is not wide means mostly, if the range is not wide means mostly the marks will be, accumulated onto one side, either high or low. It's not widely spread out. That is the declaration that is being made through this question, wider range of achievement. Okay. Now let's go back and check in the passage what we can find out. Now let me tell you, I would directly come to this section A. Why? Because you would have noticed the question number 6 to 9. So before this, as per the passage, the question type was matching heading. 1 to 5 was matching heading. Now when you do matching heading, you definitely get an idea about the main theme of each of the sections. So that is why it is always recommended that it's good, or it is recommended that you follow the order of the questions as it is in the question booklet, because they have placed the questions in such a way, they have a rationale. Now, like if you do this yes, no first, and then if you have gone and tried to do this matching headings, like yes, no, not given questions would not be that easy for you, because to find out where the information, you will be taking more time. But if you have already done this matching headings, you know exactly where to look for the information and then read that area thoroughly to find out whether it is yes or no. So since I have done that matching heading questions initially, easily I can come to this section A to get the answer for question number 6. Okay. Now it says that Japan has a significantly better records in terms of average mathematical attainment than England. Now what does this first sentence say? Sometimes this sentence confuses the students. The passage says that Japan has better, but the question says English pupils' achievement has wider range. Now does wider range and better records in terms of average attainment is the same? No, maybe overall they would Japanese students would be having better achievement. Okay, when you take the average. But when considering the range of marks, least and highest, that disparity, the difference is huge when it comes to Japanese students. That's what the statement is saying. Now let's see whether how clearly we can understand it from the passage. Now this sentence has no connection with the given statement. This just says that the average scores, math scores of the students in Japan is higher when compared to England. Let me show you just an example, so that the difference between the average and the range is clear to you. For instance, Japan, England, the scores in maths for Japanese students, it's like 70, 80, 70, and here it is 90, 40, 30, something of that sort. Then here the average is, I would say, like 75, and here it would be something like 50, the average, right? Now, when you look at it, the average is higher the average maths score is higher in Japan, among Japan students when compared to English students. But when you look at the range is the difference between the highest value and the least value. So here the range is only 10. And what about the range here? The least is 90 and the highest is 30. So the range here is 60. Okay. Now the range is higher here, but the average score is higher in Japan. I hope by now it's clear. Let's read through. Large sample international comparisons of pupils' attainment since 1960 have established that not only did Japanese pupils at the age 13 have better scores of average attainment, but there was also a large proportion of low attainers in England. there was a large proportion of low attainers in England, where incidentally the variation in attainment scores was much greater. The variation in attainment scores. Now, what do you mean by the variation in attainment scores? Here, there is no much variation. It's more or less above 70 or above 70. But here, when it comes to England, this is just an example, can we say it's above 70 or above 60? It's going in all ways. So here, the variation or the difference between the scores is higher. This variation is nothing but the range. So what does the writer claim? The writer claimed that the variation in maths attainment scores in England is higher when compared to Japan. Even though the average score is higher in Japan, the range is wider, or the variation is more or much greater in England. Now, which means that it is exactly the same. The meaning is exactly the same. In the statement, they have used the word wider range, and in the passage, the writer used the word variation. Variation is greater. That is what the writer claims, which means that this is definitely yes. Yes, that is clear. Now we shall move on to the next question. The percentage of gross national product, GNP, spent on education generally reflects the level of attainment in maths. So the statement is saying that the writer has said in the passage, like they're asking us, the statement says that the percentage of GNP, the percentage of gross national product spent on education generally reflects the level of attainment in maths. So there is a correlation between the percentage spent, the percentage of GNP spent on education and what scores are attained in maths. They are correlated, they are proportional, they are directly proportional. The more GNP, the more percentage of GNP spent on education, the better will be the scores in maths. That is what the statement says. Now let's check whether the writer also has the same claim. Does the writer also say that if more amount is spent on education, then the attainment in maths score will be higher? So here you can say something is being mentioned about the GNP. The percentage of gross national product spent on education is reasonably similar in two countries, that is in England and Japan. So how is this higher and more consistent attainment in maths achieved? Now, the reader has thrown a question before us. The reader says that the percentage of GNP spent on education is more or less or reasonably similar in England and Japan. Then why is this difference coming? How is this higher and more consistent attainment in maths achieved? Even though the amount spent on education is similar between these two countries, between Japan and England, then why is Japan having better score when it comes to maths than England? So we don't know what is the idea in the mind of the writer, whether he's thinking that, whether he's supporting that, or whether he is opposing that. Like, we don't know. Here the writer does not say that it has a direct relation. The writer just says, how is this? It's a question in the mind of the writer. Now, what does the question say? It says that it generally reflects the level of attainment. The question says that there is a direct proportion. But as per the passage, what is the writer trying to say? The writer does not make any claim. The writer is confused as to, even though the GNP, the percentage of GNP spent on education is same, then why is this difference coming? Which means that he does not have made a statement or claim on the relation between GNP, the percentage of GNP spent on education, and the attainment in maths. So what can we say about this? Can we say that it's not given, they are not talking anything about GNP and the relation that it has on the attainment in maths? No, that it's not, we cannot say that that area has not been completely talked about, or we don't know about it. It says that as per the passage, the reader is confused, the reader is asking a question. But as per the statement, it says that it is having a direct relation to, that is GNP and maths attainment. The attainment in maths score has a direct relation. But the writer says that how is it possible? So they are contradicting, and for that reason the answer to this is no. Okay. Now we shall move on to the next question, 8th question. Private schools in Japan are more modern and spacious than that state-run lower secondary schools. They're talking about how modern and spacious private schools are. It's a comparison. Okay. Now let's see where that can be found. Here in the section B, you can see lower secondary schools in Japan cover 3 school years from 7th grade to the 9th grade. Virtually all pupils at this stage attend state schools. Only 3% are in the private sector. So they have referenced there about the state or government schools and private schools in the private sector. So here you can see schools are usually modern in design, set well back from the road and spacious inside. But the question says that private schools in Japan are more modern and spacious than state-run schools. But is there any such comparison in the passage? No. They're saying, okay, generally most of the students attend state-run schools and only 3% attend private schools. And generally they are talking about school. The writer is talking about the school. The schools are usually modern and they are spacious. Yes, it is being said. But did they make a comparison between the schools in the private sector and in the public sector? No, no such comparison is made. So we are not able to say whether they are more spacious or less spacious. No such comparison is made. And for that reason, we say that the answer to this question is not given. Why is it not given? Because this comparison has not been done in the passage. And do you think like why it is no? Why not it is no? When can it be no? It can only be no. The answer to this question can only be no if in the passage it should be mentioned that private schools or state-run schools in Japan are more modern and spacious. Now here they have not mentioned specifically about state-run schools or private schools. They generally said how the students are allocated in private schools and public schools. Then they're generally talking about schools. No comparison has been made. So for that reason, it's not possible for us to judge how spacious and how modern the private schools are or the government-run schools are. So for that reason, the answer is not given. Now moving on to the last question. Teachers mark homework in Japanese schools. Teachers, it is the teacher's role to correct or mark the homeworks in Japanese schools. Now you see it in this section, like how we can directly say is that based on the previous set of questions which we would have done, which you should have done before this, that is matching heading. With that you can clearly identify which section you need to look for to solve that specific yes, no, not given question. Now here it is said that lessons all follow the same pattern. At the beginning, the pupils put solutions to the homework on the board. Then the teachers comment, correct or elaborate as necessary. That is what is said here. The pupils put the solutions to the homework on the board. On the board, the students write the answers to the solutions to the homework. Then the teachers comment on that. The teachers comment on that, correct and elaborate. What is written on the board, they correct and then elaborate. Then what is said? Pupils mark their own homework. Pupils mark their own homework. This is an important principle in Japanese schooling as it enables whatever it is. Which means that are the teachers marking the homework? No. Here this might slightly misguide them. That is, here it is said that the teachers comment, correct and elaborate as necessary. But what is being corrected? The solution that has been put written on the board, the teachers comment and correct it as necessary. But regarding the homework done in their books, how it is done, the pupils mark or correct their own homework, which means that it contradicts what is given in the statement. Here it says that teachers, but in the passage it says pupils do it, which means that it is a no. Okay, with that we come to the end of this practice session. I hope you found it beneficial. Now if you have any further queries, please feel free to get in touch with us through the comments. We'll be back with more such practice sessions on the remaining question types. Until then, stay tuned. Happy learning.
Medcity International Academy. Trusted hands forever.